Moscow, Russia, which has long burnished athletic prowess as a symbol of its great power status, faced its largest international sporting crisis since the Soviet era on Tuesday when the International Olympic Committee banned the country from competing in the 2018 Winter Games. In a country that is a winter sports powerhouse, one covered by snow much of the year, the ban pitted the desire of ordinary Russians to cheer on their champion skaters, biathletes and hockey players against calls to boycott the Games to show that an Olympics without Russia is no Olympics at all. Beyond sports, the decision carried the whiff of history, when Olympic playing fields were an extension of Cold War battlefields. Back then, to be sure, the sources of conflict were rooted in political ideology, not in performance-enhancing drugs. A number of senior Russian politicians and sporting officials demanded that Russia avoid the Winter Games in South Korea entirely, while others thought individual competitors should make the decision. The ban left open the door for athletes to compete as individuals, under the Olympic flag. The question now is to participate using this status, or not, Alexei Dernovo, a sports commentator on the Echo of Moscow radio station, said in an interview. Some people think it's humiliation to participate like this, others that we should, allow the athletes an opportunity to compete. In Switzerland, Alexander Zhukov, the president of the Russian Olympic Committee, apologized for violations of anti-doping rules that were committed in our country, though Russian officials have been steadfast that the problem was not systemic or sanctioned by the government. Mr. Zhukov was himself suspended on Tuesday. President Vladimir Putin, the most important voice in the decision, was not heard from immediately. He had previously suggested that competing under anything other than the Russian flag would be humiliating. Russia is expected to appeal. There is also a political facet to it all, especially with Mr. Putin's re-election campaign unrolling next February, as the Games take place. Some political analysts predicted that it would have no effect on Mr. Putin's popularity. If anything, it might increase his standing, as the president built his current popularity on the idea that he brought Russia off its knees, ending the perceived humiliations the West heaped on the ashes of the Soviet Union. Other political analysts wondered whether the mounting scandals involving Russia might not begin to reverberate. There is the threat of new sanctions from the United States over election hacking, for example, as well as the investigation into the Trump campaign's contacts with Moscow and a court case in the Netherlands over the shooting down of a Malaysian Airlines jetliner over Ukraine in 2014. There are too many fishy stories in the Kremlin's relations with Europe and the US, said Alexander Morozov, a political analyst and frequent Kremlin critic, suggesting that the public would begin to trust the Kremlin less and Russia's international reputation would further erode. Moreover, the Kremlin does not want to investigate any of these scandals and publish its results, neither to its own society nor to the international community. State outlets like Hardy, the international television voice of the Russian government, went into overdrive attacking the international inquiry as an attempt to demean Russia, while ignoring questions about whether something was rotten in Russian sports. One of the main state broadcasters announced immediately that it would not show the Games. Hence most commentators thought public ire would likely focus on the international community, blamed again for singling out Russia unfairly, and perhaps the senior Russian sporting officials sanctioned by the IOC, but not on Mr. Putin himself. Alexander Zhukov, who leads the Federation of Russian Bobsledders and who was banned for life by the IOC, said that it would be up to the individual athletes to decide whether to participate, as did Alexei Kravtsov, the head of the skating union. According to the Interfax news agency. Irina Akhilmova, a ski jumper, said she was inclined not to go but would consult her coaches. I don't know how other athletes will react, but I was not training for many years to go and not participate for my own country, she was quoted as saying by the TASS news agency. Alexander Tikhonov, a former champion Soviet biathlete and previous head of the Russian Association, encouraged athletes to go. We have to prove to everyone that we're the best, he was quoted as saying by championout.com, a sports website. Competing without the anthem and the flag is not a treachery. We have to go and to give hell to everyone, to the Americans, to the whole world. On social media, some critics of participating in the Games said athletes who went should lose their citizenship. Critics of the Olympic ban started #NoRussia No Games.